I may be an evil space Nazi wizard with the blood of countless lives on my hands, but the only thing more powerful than the dark side is consent.
The word woke. I hate the word woke. I think we should be vilifying the use of this word. And I invite you to free yourself of the nebulous nature of what our world is calling us to, and instead find something more painfully specific. Dog fart. Painfully specific. Painfully specific. Dog fart.
Actual fandom is not going to stop.
Those who love making monsters out of others, who create chaos and carnage as they coalesce power on their own personal journey of exalting themselves.
Fascism is coming to you. Fascism is coming to you.
There's no strategy. I have no strategy.
All the trappings and trimmings of a cleaned up, gussied up politician.
There's zero strategy.
Are you sure?
Full of dead men's bones and everything unclean.
You might as well give up.
Welcome to the wasteland. Welcome to the new paradigm. This land is your land, white man. All the brothers are welcome to try to survive. Welcome to the wasteland. Welcome to the new paradigm. Not every day you see an empire shook up and die.
Damn, that's hot. Let's give the people what they came for.
Let's fucking go. I see this as an absolute win. I see this as an absolute win.
Somebody please think of the children!
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying? Fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth.
and they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are.
How do you think homosexuals reveal themselves?
And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Welcome to the FAP. Nancy used to do that for me. Handsy Nancy, I called her. Oh, and by the way,
there's no strategy. I have no strategy.
Are you sure?
So that was a fucking lie.
Hello, everyone. Oh wait, where'd I go? There I am. Oh, I'm a professional. Hey guys. Hey, welcome to the FAP. Hi, I'm Dane. This is Actual Fandom. But I'm not alone. Like most times. No, not right now. Got Bob of the Old Ways.
We all have Bob of the Old Ways. I am
a little bit of Bob of the Old Ways inside of us.
I'm your cool uncle. I'm everyone's cool uncle. I'm always here.
You're everyone's creepy uncle? What?
Yeah.
Oh man, it is a somber thing. We were not planning on doing, and ideally we wouldn't have to do this show. At least this part of it. We will be talking about some like an AI Google VO3 Street interview. Is that what it's called? VO? Is that how you pronounce it? Google VO? No? Yeah, VO?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So this is a video that I guess is going around, and it's all AI, and it's apparently hard to tell, maybe? I haven't watched it yet. We're going to do I'm going to have the Tipper Gore experience on that one. And then, we'll see what happens. Morgan, was going to join us, and then might not. We'll see. Nonetheless, we hope she's doing okay. And then, but then the other thing, which is that Peter David, comics legend, has passed away, which sucks. Peter David is like, there's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, obviously on like Fantastic Four, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko for a little while anyway on Spider-Man. And there's all these specific eras and runs with a specific creative team attached, or particular writers. That just like when you think of the best, most defining run, for instance, I think the most comparable would be Chris Claremont and X-Men. As far as Marvel Comics anyway. So like Chris Claremont defined the X-Men to a degree that his mark will never leave the franchise. And Peter David did the same thing with the Incredible Hulk. And that's still only scratching the surface of what all he's done, but that is a pretty significant one. He's also the guy that gave us, the real Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, he had like some iconic runs on some very important characters in both of the big two.
X Factor, exactly, Screwface.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at kind of a list or a couple lists maybe of the stuff he's done, just to make sure we at least mention all of his highlights. The sad part, other than just the fact that the man's gone, is that it maybe seems like it didn't have to be this way. He has been sick. He battled some cancer, but then kind of came out, on the other side and seemed to have, beaten it. But, he still had some strokes, like little mini strokes here and there, stuff like that. And then as of March, he was kicked off of Medicaid. And, that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for what's happening with the Trump administration right now and the, GOP in general, where they're actively fucking gutting anything that benefits people. Almost like that's the defining, what they're doing is defined by that, right? Like, does this help people? Is this good for people? Well, let's fucking axe that shit as best they can anyway. And so that was in March, and then 2 months later, Peter David passed away. I don't know for sure that there's a direct through line there, but it kind of seems like there probably is. And so maybe I'm doing a little bit of a clickbait with the title. Okay, sorry. I wanted you to hear about Peter David's life, and I also wanted to explain to you that, make sure you know that what's happening in the government, and that nobody's safe, man. Nobody's safe. But yeah, what are your experiences with Peter David's work?
My first memory of Peter David's work was his run on Aquaman,
mm-hmm.
who at the time was my favorite superhero. And
You mean before he did Aquaman, he was your favorite?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
because he's the one that redefined. Like, basically, there's two guys that have made Aquaman not be a joke anymore. One was Peter David. The second one was based on Peter David's work. Was Jason Momoa. But yeah, he was kind of a goofball. He wasn't taken seriously before that.
Yes. But when I was a kid and I watched the Super Friends, Aquaman was my favorite because he liked to swim and I liked to swim, and he could talk to animals. And I wanted to be able to talk to animals. Yeah. So like I went into Peter David's run on Aquaman. Go ahead. What?
I mean, you can talk to animals, Bob, but they may not understand you, but you can talk to them. They may not understand you.
That's true.
The animals?
Very good point. Yes. In fact, I do talk to animals all the time, and they never listen to me.
It's fun.
But that was so my Aquaman going into Peter David.
Visually, the most identifiable things that changed there, I mean, but that's just real. Once again, scratching the surface is the hair and the hook hand or the harpoon hand, where he had his hand. I think it was eaten by piranhas.
Yes,
is that right? Yeah,
yeah.
But more importantly than that, and you will find this everywhere we see Peter David writing for any amount of time, he builds out. He's probably one of, if not the best, at just building out a single character's supporting cast. And like defining lore, the lore behind Atlantis and Aquaman and all that stuff wasn't really well defined. It was kind of just like whatever. But he came along and he fucking, said, no, this is what this is. This he took characters from like Superman, made them relevant to Atlantis and stuff like that. I haven't read any of the stuff, so I'm being kind of general here. I only know vaguely of these facts. So if you know anything of those, feel free. But
yeah, well, the main thing he did for Aquaman, like you said, was make Aquaman relevant again. Like, Aquaman would not be considered, in my opinion, one of the 7 pillars of the Justice League in the modern runs without Peter David, because
absolutely,
like everything we associate with the modern Aquaman, like his super strength, his ability to like leap into the air so high that he's basically flying, his near invulnerability to bullets and that sort of stuff because his muscle mass is so dense living under the ocean. All that shit comes from him, basically. And he made Aquaman into a character for grown-ups.
Or at least one that could be taken seriously, it wasn't easily made a joke of.
Yeah.
And he still talks to fish, goddammit, deal with it.
Yeah. And it was the 90s, so a lot of what Peter David wrote is really edgy and hasn't necessarily aged well. But at the time, it was really cool. And
that was the directive from editorial on both of the big two. Make it edgy, make it dark and gritty. And so this was that version of that for him. With Batman, it was get his back broken. Now there's Azrael, and he's actually killing people. With Superman, it was he dies, and they bring in these other 4. And then, every character kind of went through it. Right. Spider-Man had his whole clone. Let's not talk about that.
And this was the Aquaman that we got in the DC animated universe. This version, or at least inspired by this version. Very much like we got with Hulk in the MCU.
Yeah, exactly. What I was just doing right before the stream, and Bob watched the last few minutes of what I was watching. This is rewatching my Hulk video from 2022, in defense of the MCU Hulk, because I am. I guess I'll announce this officially now. I'd announced it to channel members and patrons so far, but I'm gonna be. There's gonna be a video essay coming soon. I recently saw a film, and it resonated with me in a pretty profound way. And I need to talk about it, and I'm gonna talk about lots of stuff around it as well. So like grift and all that shit's gonna be involved. But I was like, oh man, it's been a long time since I wrote a video essay, and the Hulk one is my go-to. It's my gold standard. So I was watching it, trying to find stuff that I like, feel like I want to do better this time. And there's nothing. I just did it perfect, man. No, there's plenty of stuff that I can do better. And yeah, just like watching that, what was crazy is I was watching that, taking notes before Bob posted in the Discord that Peter David had died. And I'm like, no fucking way. And I'm literally in that video wearing my Hulk shirt, Incredible Hulk shirt. That's like, specifically, I bought it because it represents that era of the 90s when he was Professor Hulk and he was working with the Pantheon. And that was my introduction to the Hulk, was straight up superhero Hulk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that he did with the Hulk, which, in a similar way to Aquaman, Hulk was the original Avenger, but he didn't last very long. You know what I mean? Because he was so volatile. The work that Peter David did not only explored the psychology and that aspect of the Banner Hulk dichotomy, but like firmly established him as a straight up superhero when written that way, right? And Professor Hulk, which if you've seen my video, I think that's fucking excellent development in the MCU. Some people don't. It's okay to be wrong. But yeah, let's I got a couple of lists pulled up over here. Let's see what we got.
He also did a lot of work on the new version of Supergirl after the post-crisis.
Yes.
Or in the post-crisis era of DC Comics. An entirely
she was
new
in a
character.
weird spot too, lore-wise.
Yeah. So it wasn't. She was the Supergirl he wrote was an entirely new character. She wasn't Kara Zor-El. So he basically invented a new character. Yeah. Linda Danvers was her name, and that got freaky and psychedelic and weird. He likes to do that. He liked to bring in a lot of, at least in Aquaman and Supergirl, he brought in a lot of supernatural elements that were not previously part of those characters' lore, and that made them more interesting.
So just a little bit about Peter David, a little background here. He been a fan favorite writer for 3 decades plus. Began his comic book career in the sales department at Marvel before embarking on a career that encompassed an incredibly diverse selection of characters, worlds, companies, and mediums. Outside of comics, he enjoyed a very successful career as a novelist, penning numerous acclaimed Star Trek novels, and becoming go-to guy for film novelizations. He's also written for television, shows like Babylon 5, Ben 10, as well as several video games. No matter what format his work took, he maintained a fervent and loyal fan following. So let's see. First up here, we got his. Anybody ever heard of The Death of Jean DeWolf, the Spider-Man story? Because I'd heard of it, but I have not read it.
I don't think I've even heard of that one.
So he wrote Spectacular Spider-Man number 103, then 105 through 110, then 112, 113. So up until 136, he was pretty much the main writer. So whenever he took on Spectacular Spider-Man, he sold his first story to editor Jim Owsley. His first mainstream comic story was published in Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man number 103. He followed up his debut with a fun 2-part Wasp story, and it was clear to readers that Marvel had found a capable young writer. The next issue proved David was much more than simply capable. His 4th issue of Spider-Man changed the web-slinger's world forever, and The Death of Jean DeWolf is still considered by many to be one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told. Jean DeWolf was Spider-Man's Jim Gordon, a tough-as-nails cop who functioned as Spidey's trusted ally in the war on crime. She was a familiar face to Spider readers and constant in Peter Parker's world, at least until Peter David unexpectedly and violently had her killed at the hands of Spider-Man's latest villain, the Sin Eater. All of a sudden, there was an element of danger in Spidey's usually lighter world. So yeah, this was like a transitionary period of Spider-Man, along with obviously the Gwen Stacy thing is the real gut shot to, Spider-Man that kind of made you realize, oh, the stakes are real. But this was another one, I suppose. He masterfully played with readers' perceptions to such an extent that many truly believed that it was Betty Brant actually killed in one of the greatest cliffhangers in Spider-Man's rich history. Then he did some Doctor Strange, featuring Black Cat, Clash with Sabretooth. Let's see. Yeah. Some out of Big 2 stuff he did this is like Epic Comics, and it's set. I should pull it up on the screen, huh?
He did a prequel comic for the Gunslinger universe as well back in, I think, 2007. He worked with Stephen King.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was called The Gunslinger Born. I think I have a copy of it somewhere.
Oh wait, no, yeah, I've read that. I read like several volumes of it. I forgot that was Peter David. Holy shit, you're right. Because yeah, it was Jay Lee did the art, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking great. Sax and Violins. That's interesting. 1993. This is Peter David and George Perez. Saxon Violence was a splash of cold water in the collective face of a complacent comic readership. Both creators were well known, for good reason, for their mainstream superhero work. So when the duo debuted a book filled with unflinching overt sex and copious amounts of violence, get it? Fans took notice. Saxon Violence was published by Marvel's Epic Comics imprint as part of the Heavy Hitters subline. Modern day readers might get a Satellite Sam Grindhouse vibe from the book, but for a comic published in 1983, this sort of titillation and celebrated violence is unheard of. So yeah, taking a chance to do something out of pocket, like it. Sign of a good artist.
Yeah. I'm just scrolling through his Star Trek novels here, and there's a lot of good ones.
Well, we're now to you guys if you want to get back over here, because we're now at Aquaman.
Oh, okay.
It's right there.
So I saw Sean in the chat earlier said at the time Aquaman was one of the few traditional heroes that got away with killing. That is Peter David. You can thank Peter David for that. Because before Peter David came along, Aquaman was like a goody two-shoes, just like, Superman and all the other ones. And this is like Peter David made him like the Aquaman, the environmental radical who was willing to kill people. And
kind of taking on more of a kind of vibe a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And like I said earlier, he introduced a lot of supernatural and fantasy elements to the Aquaman lore that are still part of the lore now.
Right. So like one consistent thing I find is just, like I said, he fills out the lore and the supportive cast of pretty much anything he does. When he took up the writing reins on Aquaman, the character was firmly rooted in the second tier of superheroes. Character was directionless mess, sometimes popping up in Justice League and sometimes featured in quickly aborted new series that would drown as soon as they surfaced, while most fans saw King of the Seas as a fish-talking punchline thanks to his portrayal on the Super Friends. David quickly proved that Aquaman was no joke. Featured his trademark humor, but his Aquaman was pure badass, more an undersea Conan than the butt of jokes. David did not just rebuild Aquaman as an important DC hero, he carefully crafted his world, doing one of the most incredible jobs of world building modern comics has ever seen. Starting in the Atlantis Chronicles, he penned a history for Atlantis that made it concrete and palpable place. Suddenly, he was a viable character in his world, a viable setting that greatly enriched the DC universe, as well as making the once confusing history of Atlantis into a functioning narrative that bound characters like Arion and Superman's Lori Lamaris into Aquaman's world.
Mm-hmm.
His greatest contribution, ironically, mutilating the title character. Aquaman had his hand devoured by piranhas and replaced with a retractable hook. Fans knew this Aquaman bore little resemblance to the classic hero they thought they knew, transforming into one of the coolest and most intriguing DC heroes. And he stayed that way for quite a while. I remember, like, Justice League versus Avengers, he had the hook hand.
Yeah. And the look of Jason Momoa's Aquaman owes a lot to.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, right? Like that's the only thing even remotely like what Jason Momoa was bringing. And I kind of wish that, obviously, I wish that the DCU had done better. Whatever it's called, the EU, whatever the fuck, the Snyderverse, because it would have been cool to see that kind of story play out where he loses his hand and gets the hook hand and stuff like that. But now he's Lobo Momoa. So this is one I don't even know if I knew this, but he did Captain Marvel from Avengers Forever. 1999. That's exactly the era when I was not paying attention to comics at all. So, and then 2002. He was doing Cosmic Marvel books before Cosmic Marvel was cool. Original Captain Marvel's son hit the racks in 99. It quickly became a critical sensation. He used his ability to build rich and dynamic characters to make Genis-Vell an integral part of the Marvel Universe. There was not a great deal of movement on the cosmic side of Marvel during this era, so David had the playground all to himself, enriching the world of space adventure and adding elements and characters that would go on to inform such titles as Guardians of the Galaxy. See, I didn't even know that. That's fucking cool. That he was essentially the steward of the Cosmic Marvel for a little while.
Yeah.
When Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who I did am very familiar with their stuff, launched their Guardians book, upon which the upcoming Marvel, this is several years ago, obviously, the writers used a number of characters David had utilized to a great degree in his Captain Marvel run. Cool. Oh, and here's Rick Jones. David also did some of the best character work on Marvel's classic everyman, Rick Jones, since, well, David used the character in his classic run on Incredible Hulk. Captain Marvel was as much about Rick as it was the good captain, and David crafted a cosmic buddy movie for the ages. Run was not without controversy, however, as Marvel canceled the title only to relaunch it as part of the You Decide campaign, where David's epic went up against two forgettable books, Ultimate Adventures and Marvel. Holy shit, Marvel. And only the best-selling title would continue to be published. Though hardly in doubt, David's book won out. The gimmick hurt a little of Cap's momentum, but David quickly righted the ship through gripping cosmic dramas with a humorous and very human heart. As all things cosmic, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This one I kind of completely forgot was his. Spider-Man 2099.
Did he create that character?
Co-creator, yeah.
Wow. I had forgotten that. If I ever knew that.
I'm sure I maybe did at some point, but like, we'll maybe remind me later. We might look at Marvel just for the hell of it. Yeah, that story is gutting, the Captain Marvel story. Yeah, Spider-Man 2099. There you go. So, reimagining Spider-Man is never easy. Reimagining Spider-Man while building a futuristic world around him is damn near impossible. So I'm guessing that he must be the one that's responsible for like shock as like a curse word. You know, I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah.
You know, he'll say like shocking thing or whatever, and there's other, you know, silly ass words that they used. But it's still kind of charming in a comic book way. Yeah. Some of which, like Hulk 2099, fell flat, while others, including his Spider-Man, became the stuff of legend. He introduced a reluctant readership to Miguel O'Hara. Oh shit! Got a $10 super chat from Sean. The Captain Marvel series is a great read. Reprinted as Genis Vell. If you like buddy action films, you'll like Genis and Rick's relationship. I can't recommend this enough. I will take that recommendation, sir. And if I can't read it for free, I will take that $10 and buy it with that. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. That's a cool cover.
Yeah, this is the one that I have to say, though we're trying to honor the man, and I liked the stories he wrote for this character were really good. I wasn't not at the time a fan of this character because this is not the traditional Supergirl.
It was editorial shit. They only, as it says here, they only wanted one Kryptonian survivor at the time. So in the mid-90s, the concept of Supergirl was at a crossroads. DC wanted Superman to be the only survivor from Krypton, making the concept of Supergirl immediately outdated and in need of a retcon. DC had a Supergirl, a being called Matrix, who was tricked by Lex Luthor to be his own personal super bodyguard. It was a solid story, but other than the eventual betrayal, and with Krypton not part of the equation, there wasn't much there to anchor the Matrix Supergirl to the rest of the DC universe. At least not until Peter David took Matrix and went on a nearly 80-issue run that became arguably the most beloved Supergirl run in history. Jesus. Like to take basically a kind of a shitty, you know, nothing character, it seems like, and turn it into a popular, successful 80-issue run. That's incredible. Yeah.
And this was in my Superman purist days. So I was like, this is not the real Supergirl, blah, 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 blah. But many years later, I read it, and it's great. It's a great story. And he did a great job of rehabilitating that version of Supergirl. But she was not Kara Zor-El. She was Linda Danvers fused with the Matrix, which is I think it's a demon.
She was literally made of clay, apparently, without direction or purpose other than her classic name. Once David got done with her, she was a major part of the DC universe with her own mythology and chronology. By this time, DC went back to the Kryptonian Supergirl to great sales numbers, and David's Supergirl was all but forgotten, except by the many ardent fans that followed David's classic run.
Yeah. Like that's another superhero story where he started infusing a lot of supernatural elements into that character's lore. Like that version of I do not remember the exact connection, but that version of Supergirl was connected in some way to the Angel of Fire.
Oh.
And the Matrix being was either a demon or an angel. I'll have to go back and look it all up, but like she wasn't a Kryptonian at all. She just looked like the classic Supergirl. And yeah, the Supergirl TV show does take a lot from this run. For sure.
Yeah, didn't know that. Let's see. So then we get to, if it's not Incredible Hulk that you probably respect the guy from, then it's probably this. Probably both. It's his X Factor. Come on now. Come the fuck on. Like, took it to, so for anybody that's not aware of the history of X Factor, what it was, in the 80s, I think the mid 80s or so, Marvel decided, well, we want to get the original X-Men back together, but we got all these other X-Men that are popular now too, so we'll just get the originals back together and call them X Factor, right? And then that went on for a little while, but basically it became clear that like there's no reason to do it this way. You might as well have them all be X-Men, but you have this title called X Factor that now is a brand. People are going to hopefully buy it if you keep putting it out. Let's reinvent it. Give it to Peter David. And I think it was number 71, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Oh, no, 70. Well, it's 55, and then 70 is where the official relaunch started. Yeah. You get Havoc. You get fucking Multiple Man. And I want to show this shirt that this guy is wearing in several of the images that I found of him is so awesome. It's just... I wish I could have met this guy. It sucks, but look at his shirt. Straight up Multiple Man merch. It's fucking awesome.
That must have been custom made.
I mean, I tried to find one like briefly, but I didn't see that one at all. I don't know. I might have one made or something just to honor the guy. So yeah, he's done a lot of X Factor, several, I think 3 or 4 different iterations, which essentially was always the same more or less team. You could tell he's a big fan of Jamie Madrox. He loved fucking Jamie Madrox, and he wrote him well. Just like one of the more compelling, without being like outlandish, kind of X-Men characters. There's not a whole lot of like flair to Multiple Man, but it's just characterization, just straight up fucking character. He's rich with it because of Peter David. Well, and then you also get Guido, strong guy. So, but Polaris, everybody recognizes Polaris, I think. Sorry, was that
Peter David came up with strong guy?
I mean, let's see.
Or did he just like rehabilitate that character like he did so many others?
I don't know that he existed really before that. Does anybody know? He probably did, but I mean, he probably wasn't very well characterized before then anyway. But yeah, this team was essentially Havoc, Polaris, Quicksilver, M, Strong Guy, Layla Miller eventually, Siren, Wolfsbane, Darwin, Longshot, Richter, Shatterstar. He's worked with all these. Yeah, Polaris was the big breakout for reasons because her last name's awesome. That's why.
That's because she was Professor X's sister, right?
Yes.
That's what
she's bald. It's because she's bald.
Yeah, because she's bald. Yeah.
She doesn't have any hair. Right? Gary? Gary? Huh? For anybody not aware, Nerdrotic in their trailer review for Deadpool and Wolverine, whenever it first showed Cassandra Nova, they were like, who is that, Gary? Former comic book store owner that fucking rests on his comic experience all the time. Who is that character? I don't know. Polaris is what he said.
Like, I would have guessed, if I didn't know who Cassandra Nova was, I would have guessed gender swapped Professor X.
Yeah.
Before, like a variant of Professor X or something.
That was actually a fail of his grift. He could have easily done that, and that would have, his audience isn't going to check. You know what I mean? And he could have actually got them riled up over some bullshit that was right down his wheelhouse. But he failed on that one. So Screwface is explaining that he didn't create Strong Guy, but was a big part of his work on X Factor. Kind of, you know, the same way that like Rob Liefeld technically created Deadpool, but we all know that it was really Fabian Nicieza, and then like later on, Joe Kelly and fucking Jerry Duggan that really defined the character. No, because why would I? I did see Eric DeBunks posted a video that apparently Star Wars Theory has now changed his mind on Andor. Of course he has. You know,
he's changed his mind about whether he's going to cover it.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
So now that
originally he said he wasn't going to watch it because of.
Yeah. We know that. I know her name is Lorna Dane. How would I not know that? Why would I? Did you guys see that Birdman fucking murder video that he did? With the murder of Heel versus Babyface?
Oh yeah. It was so delicious. Murder is such a tasty snack.
I knew right from the opening when he's like, ass, you could have waited your turn. I was like, oh shit, he's pissed. That was good. And that thing, as he says at the end, that's not even like the video he's planning on really covering as with. That's just like a response and, you know, pointing out that, you know, he shouldn't be fucking talking too much shit. You notice that as anytime really that they talk about people that say something, they'll use every once in a while. Some video will get popular, criticizing them, calling them racist, and they'll use that to their advantage. But they won't mention the name of the content creator.
Yeah.
They'll pretend like they don't even understand who was, I don't know, some guy. Fuck off, man. You fucking know exactly who it was. The same, you know, but and then the inverse tactic is like whenever that person asked Gary, you know, what is organized chaos's deal with you? And he's like, oh, I don't even know, you know, like, I don't know what his dog fucked his mom or something. And it's like, you fucking know exactly what he criticizes you for. You've seen it. You've heard it.
Yeah.
Gary.
But he can't afford to have his audience go and find out for themselves because then they might catch on that he's like a liar and a grifter.
Yep. I mean, that's, I noticed that, well, like you know, for a long time I would try and get Jeremy Griggs or Gary or somebody to kind of respond to my criticism, and they would never even acknowledge me. And so I kind of wrote it off as like, I must not be big enough. But then I encountered Eric July.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, I see, because he would respond, but he would not respond in his videos by mentioning my name. He would suggest me in some way that I could tell and others could tell that's who he's referring to, but he would never mention the channel name. And then, you know, and it's like, oh, I see. They have to be in control of the fucking conversation and what people think about it. They can't let anybody just wander over to my channel and actually watch my fucking videos. Yeah, of course he did, because, you know, he's grandfathered in. I honestly, if he ever really was an actual comic book fan, which I do believe he was to some degree, to just, I don't know, I don't see him talking shit on Peter David. Wait, what happened? To what? Lots of things have happened in the history of reality.
I think this may be asking what happened with Peter David.
Oh, he passed away.
Yeah, it was announced by his wife today that he died.
Yeah, let me pull up that. Was that her post, or who was that posted that?
I posted.
Right, but who was the?
I don't remember.
Okay.
The Skeet, the Blue Sky post that I posted was from a third party, but they were reporting that Peter David's wife had publicly announced that he died.
From Nat Gertler, no idea who that is. Peter David's wife is reportedly passed away last night. A versatile writer of comics and prose who adapted well to many characters. He'd been having severe health issues for a while. I'm glad that he was around and wish him, but yeah, I mean, to say the least. You know, he had a surreal experience with what was going on when he found out too. Like I did. Kind of crazy. I learned his name and great appreciation from when I started reading his X Factor run last year. So this is where we, you know, where we kind of extrapolate, by the way, to the fact that his healthcare being cut, or Medicare being cut in March, his coverage anyway, led directly to this. It seems like it just did. So, hi friends, I'm restarting a fundraiser for Peter David and his family. His health issues continue to be a challenge. He's been in recovery now for 3 years. He is steadily improving, even with his kidney disease, minor surgeries, and some recent small strokes. Jesus Christ. But Medicaid, which had been taking care of his long-term disability, has just dropped him. As a result, medical care and living expenses are mounting beyond current control. And then the last update was 5 days ago. His wife, I guess, due to his inability to cough or clear his throat, he's temporarily on a ventilator. His color is much better and he's moving his limbs, which is a good sign. Poor lady, man. Man. He is under light today. So like she actually had hope 5 days ago, man.
Yeah.
That's rough.
And there's multiple levels of outrage to have about this. Not just the Medicaid thing, though that's very, very important. But also behind that is the failure of the big two to take care of their artists and writers.
Yes. I'm going to put this link for GoFundMe in the chat. If you guys have anything you can donate, if you ever, appreciated anything he did or the enormous impact that he had on some of the most popular comics and enduring comic stories and characters, then, even if it's $5, consider doing that. Wow, that's a big link. Let me make that small. Tiny URL. Make it tiny for me. Enter long link. Verify you're human. I've got you fooled. All right. I should probably say what this is.
So while you're doing that, I'll talk more about Peter David and his situation. The title of the stream is kind of telling you the immediate cause of Peter David's death. And we're going to talk about that. But we also should, all of us as a community should be pushing for DC and Marvel, especially DC and Marvel, but all entertainment companies.
Whoever the publishers of the Star Trek novelizations are.
All of these companies need to be put under pressure to pay their artists and other creators a living wage and provide them with health benefits until retirement. Like give them a retirement package and all that stuff that you would expect of any other employee for a corporate entity. Because they don't do this, or at least they weren't doing this in his case. They may, I don't know what their policies are now, but it's a long, disgraceful history of DC and Marvel exploiting the labor of artists and writers. Like
it goes back to the very fucking beginning. If you've seen my Superman video, that they from the first superhero, they were screwing over creators. Like I don't know how you can be a publisher of characters that live to embody the goodness of people and doing the right thing, and then just like, yeah, but the guy that created them can fuck off and die, literally.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the creators of Superman more or less died in poverty, right?
Yes, I mean more. Yeah, they couldn't cover their their bills. Well, so what they had to do, and their estates are doing it again right now, actually. So if you see anything about the Siegel and Schuster estates suing Warner Brothers and DC, don't be like, what the fuck? They're dead. They're trying to fucking cement. For one thing, their names were almost erased from history as being the creators of Superman.
Yeah.
For I think a couple of decades, their names were not in the comics anywhere about Superman. They weren't there. Part of the settlement that was made whenever the original Superman movie came out, because they used that, the eye on the character to kind of, here's a moment where we can file a lawsuit. They didn't intend to get all the money that they sued for. They wanted to settle just for a little bit of money and mainly to make sure that their names are always going to be connected to Superman. And they won that, thankfully. As I talk about my Superman video, there's a moment when fucking, I think it was Schuster was doing deliveries to make some extra cash.
I remember
and he had
this
to deliver something to the offices of DC, and like everybody was treating him like some crazy old man or something. They knew who he was, but they were just like, kind of, like, what is he doing here? And it's just like, man, I can't fucking Superman begat all of this.
Yeah. The version of that story I heard is that when he was making that delivery, the then president or whoever the leader of DC Comics was gave him an extra $20 or something.
Yes.
Knowing full well who he was. He's like, oh, you're the creator of
Fucking
Superman. Here's $20. Yeah.
And, of course, the guy was probably way too nice to just like spit on it and throw it back at him. But that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole thing, man. And the fact is, obviously, as I said in that video, that it's a problem outside of comics. But I mean, it's especially egregious whenever you think about the mind-boggling fucking profits that come from these ideas. The over the years, the profits of Superman and Batman, and thankfully Bill Finger got some recognition, even though he was long dead after that or before. Bob Kane's a piece of shit. But yeah,
it's a problem in every creative industry, like especially in comic books, filmmaking, television, all of it. All of the suits who run those industries are always looking for ways to eliminate labor. They want to be able to make books and TV shows and movies without people involved. They don't see art as an end in itself worthy of pursuing for its own sake. They see it as a way of producing commodities.
Are you trying to do a segue right now?
No.
Okay.
That would make, I know what you're referring to, and that would make an excellent segue, but that was not my intent.
All right. Yeah, it's a whole thing, man. There's thankfully the comic book creator community and then the fan community as well, just like the individuals will come together as much as possible to, like, recently there was Larry Hama went through some medical stuff. And did he die, or is he? I don't think so.
I want to say yes.
Maybe. That sucks. I don't even know. I'm an idiot. But he was going through some health shit and he was not able to pay for some basic stuff or whatever. And it's like, dude, the comics that he wrote, I don't know, it defined the 80s and the 90s in some cases, Peter David as well. It just boggles my fucking mind that it's almost enough. And, I'll admit to it. I'm part of the problem, because if I really 100% stuck to my fucking morals, I would not pay for another fucking comic from Marvel or DC because of this shit.
Yeah.
And I probably still will, which makes me kind of a piece of shit. I'll admit it. But
this is largely why I, aside from the cost, I can't justify my own personal expenses, but another reason I don't collect comics anymore and only read them through library apps is this very thing.
Okay, Larry Hama's still alive, we're being told.
Good. I'm glad to hear Larry is still alive. But this is a story we're going to be hearing more and more, because all of these, great comic creators from the 80s and 90s are no spring chickens anymore. And we're going to keep hearing stories about them dying in poverty or struggling with medical bills, even though they either created or helped make famous some of the most important pop culture icons in modern media. And we should all be pissed about it as fans of these characters.
Yep. I mean, and this actually ties into the Chud grift, by the way, because one of the things that the Chuds are successfully able to grift on is the idea that they can't even create new characters. They just take this black girl and give it a Iron Man armor or whatever, that kind of thing. The reason for so many legacy characters, which is what the new characters are, Gary, Eric, is in large part because no creators want to create some new character for the big two. Why would they?
Yeah.
What? No, they fucking go to Image or they go to fucking Boom or whatever, and they do their own shit where they're going to be able to control what happens. They're going to retain the rights to some degree, at least. And they're not going to just get, steamrolled by a corporation that's going to take this amazing idea that they've given them and then milk it for billions of dollars. And then, sorry about your luck, as they're fucking dying on their deathbed or dying in a gutter or whatever. You know what I mean? So the Chuds are able to successfully grift on that fact. And in a very real direct way, that's the fault of Marvel and DC. You know what I mean? It's just one of the many negative effects of them not fucking valuing the brilliant minds and hands and you know, whatever that create this stuff and all the merch that comes from it, all of the, you know, everything, it's endless. You know, I've got a fucking thunder bucket. Sorry, it's unrelated, but I got a thunder bucket, as I call it. It's not what it's officially called, but I saw Thunderbolts in the theater and I got a thunder bucket. It's one of those popcorn buckets, right? Anyway, yeah, royalties, fucking some kind of like you know, medical stipend or something at least. I don't know. There's no lack of money. We know that, you know,
a pension plan, like a corporate pension plan, like you would give to like I don't want to say most, but a large number of people who work for corporations in non-creative roles have a pension plan that they give their life to a company. When they retire, the company has helped set aside money and benefits for them that will supplement like Social Security and Medicare. And they don't do that with writers and artists unless the writers and artists have a strong union like they do in Hollywood, you know, the Writers Guild of America or the Screen Actors Guild. Outside of that context, creative professionals don't really have a safety net outside of the social safety net, which is now being gutted by Donald Trump. So,
yeah. And this is true. Comics should be cheaper. They are not as expensive as, you know, to produce as the cover price suggests. It's simply, and this is where we get into far larger problem than just the comic book industry. We get into the problem of, you guessed it, capitalism and endless growth.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because it's not that the comics have become somehow more expensive to produce. I mean, yeah, in some ways they have, and you know, they do, obviously they do raise their rates a little bit as time goes on, as you know, they get, there's some fucking talented creators working in Marvel and DC right now, I'll say that. But anyway,
oh, for fuck, yeah,
holy shit. But anyways, like they have to just, they have to keep making more money. It's the only way a company is considered successful. Mm-hmm. And it's insane, literally insanity to fucking do that, to try and hold to that standard. Because what always happens inevitably is the people on the lowest rung, and this is why it's so, I think, visibly fucked up with comic books, because the people on the lowest rung are also usually not visible to most consumers, right? In other industries, you know, the factory workers, the Amazon, whatever, those people are not somebody that you know their names or their faces or whatever. When it comes to comic books, people who love comics know the fucking hands that created these characters and these stories. They know the names, they know the faces, they want to meet them. And then, so when it becomes clear that, oh, these people are considered the bottom rung and they're not getting, you know, paid for the value of their labor or their ideas, it's so fucking blatant that you can't ignore it.
Yeah, and think about the context of that for a minute. At a company like DC or Marvel, at the corporate headquarters, the janitor of that building has a better benefits package than the writers do, generally speaking. Like, because they are an employee, they can't be a contract. I mean,
I think the pronoun is she now. By the way, Jay Kung, Black Lightning creator.
Are they trans?
I think that's the case, right? Isn't that? Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm thinking of a different character. I don't know.
You
Sorry.
mean the character is trans or the creator?
No, the creator, I believe.
I have no idea.
Unless I'm mixing it up with somebody else.
But anyway, my point was the corporations like DC and Marvel value the work of people who clean the crap out of their toilets in the corporate building more than they value the labor of the people who write and draw the characters that make them all their money. Because creatives are not considered real workers and art is not seen as labor. It's seen as an affectation by rich people. You know, painting or writing or drawing is something you do as a hobby. It's not a job. Yeah.
So you know what? Let's make a sandwich out of this episode, and because the opportunity to transition keeps popping up here. Yes, at the end of the day, art and writing is intangible to capitalism and its value and the tourism it brings in money, and that makes is all visible. But the creation that's just like something that some nerd did that really, you know, anybody could do. I'm talking about from the perspective of some fucking executives, I think. There are definitely some executives that know better, like Kevin Feige is an executive who understands the fucking, you know, I mean, even if he can't literally pull strings and make people get paid more, he understands how important it is to, you know, make good characters and stories. But yeah, that's why we're seeing such a push toward AI from certain folks, because they literally don't think that it matters if it comes from a person or comes from the experiences of a human being. They just like, well, it's just content, it's just some shit to sell, right? And in that regard, we have a thing to look at here, and we'll come back to Peter David and talk some more about comics in a bit. But right here, I'm gonna have the Tipper Gore experience on this one. Bob has presented us with a Google VO3 street interview. So that'll be interesting.
Ma'am, would you like to become a robotheist?
What's a robotheist?
It's someone who believes that artificial intelligence is God.
Sir, would you like to become a robotheist?
What's a robotheist?
It's someone who believes in the robot religion.
Okay, so the thing to know about this clip is everything you just watched. Yeah, everything you just watched was AI generated. None of those were not real people. The people you saw on the screen do not exist anywhere in meat space. And there's a lot of other videos made with Google VO3 that are floating around that are almost photorealistic, that look like this. And a lot of people are freaking out about it. This just dropped like earlier this week. If you go on YouTube, you can find tons of examples of Google VO3.
J-Con, literally no harm, no, you don't have anything to be sorry for, man. Like, I mean, I know that there's like the fear of, oh, I misgendered and now I'm going to get canceled, because that's what chuds like to throw out there and stuff. That's part of their fucking thing, is making people think that if you just don't know or you misspeak that you're going to fucking get executed in the street.
Did we verify that? Oh yeah, Jenny Blake Isabella. Okay, yeah. So the creator of Black Lightning is a trans woman.
But literally, you did nothing wrong because you didn't know. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Thank you for learning and accepting. That's all.
We didn't know either. All that happens if you made an honest mistake is say, "Oops, I'm sorry," and then the person you made the mistake towards will be, "Okay, that's not a big deal. Just don't, make sure it doesn't happen again. We're all good."
But also, RXNV, no doomery in chat. No doomery, please. We don't doomer around here. Okay, you got it out of your system.
Anyway, you can go on YouTube right now and find a whole bunch of other videos made with Google VO3 or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That look like that. And people are freaking out about it, because if you don't know ahead of time that you're looking at AI,
it's someone who
then it will fool you.
I knew it was, but I think I would have figured it out anyway, because there's some, I don't know, just still some uncanny valley stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
Watch.
Especially if you watch the people in the background who are walking past, like pay attention to their hands and their faces and stuff like that. But the people the camera is focused on.
His shirt, and then the first time he says robotheist, and the second time he says robotheist.
Yeah.
So like it's very clearly something weird. Like there's enough weird shit going on that if you don't immediately recognize this AI, you're still going to be like, what the fuck? Artificial intelligence. Like, hey man, if you can't even spell what you are, I don't know how intelligent you are.
Yeah. Well, all of this was made by writing a prompt. This wasn't like spontaneously generated by the software. Somebody wrote a prompt to generate this video. And all of what you just said is true, but we already live in a world where there are a non-zero number of people who can't tell that the previous generation of AI was fake.
Right. Yeah.
So this is just going to increase the number of people who can't tell the difference, especially if they don't know ahead of time that what they're watching is AI. And this is going to be used for two very nefarious purposes.
So I think one. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
One is it's probably going to be used to eliminate acting jobs at the level of things like commercials and radio announcing and like internal corporate production videos, which is where a lot of working class actors across the country make their money.
There's
If you're an actor
already
living in
a
Minnesota,
shitload of YouTube channels that just exist as like AI, voices essentially.
Yeah.
If you just kind of look around, it's the laziest, shittiest, hollowest content with just some AI voice and nonsense.
Yeah. And so there's that. And then the second thing is that political propaganda is what this will be used for. You're going to be seeing a lot of literal fake news footage made with this kind of software that will be, I guarantee you, there are already right-wingers this very moment making fake videos to use as propaganda that will look real to a lot of people.
His face just shifts in the most subtle way, but it's like still very fucking noticeable. It's weird, man.
Yeah, if you pay attention, you'll notice all the tells. But this is the kind of video where people don't really pay attention. They run this in the background when they're doing something else, or they're just not. They don't have the same visual acuity that the rest of us have. Like I said, old generations of AI fooled some people, and it's just the ability to create stuff that looks close to photorealistic is just getting better.
And as we've looked into a little bit before, and we definitely will again, this is not an organic push for AI. That there's not a lot of people that are fucking clamoring for it. There's really the only people demanding it are fucking grifters. The people that are caping for it, rather. They're like, oh no, I can do this, like fucking Shad. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of guy that like they have no talent, but they think they're entitled to be able to do the thing that the people that they look up to and can do. For instance, his brother, and so he's like, oh, I can do it too. Fucking embrace tradition, he says, as he fucking capes for AI bullshit.
Yeah, this is a technology that the part of the push for this is being made by entertainment corporations who want to be able to eliminate humans from the project of creating content entirely. Like they don't want to hire actors, they don't want to hire writers for anything more than like a day job. They want to be able to pay a writer to come in for a couple of hours and write a prompt that will produce for them a 3-hour big budget tentpole movie that they can release. They can turn around and release it like the next day or whatever. And there will be no real actors in it, and the only writer is the guy who got paid $20 to write the prompt. That's what they want.
Yeah, this is the most hidden aspect of this that I didn't even know about until it was somebody took me aside to explain it, because I had used like a free trial on a AI thing like last year or something. I'm like, well, it's not hurt anybody, just do a goofy little thing. And then Morgan, kind of explained like, oh no, actually, just to do a fucking AI image consumes so much resources that it's insane. And I don't details of that, but Morgan does, and hopefully she'll be on next week and we can talk about it more.
Yeah. So it's not just tech bros who are pushing this, it's also oil companies, because the servers that support all of this AI are going to be running on the public utilities grid. Electricity that they gobble up has to be generated with our electricity grid, which is run
I'm
by
willing to
fossil
bet they're
fuels.
already pushing that then. If that's I didn't think about it that way, but they're almost certainly, pushing it already, right?
Yeah, the big beautiful bill that's in Congress right now has a clause that says no state can regulate AI in any way for 10 years.
Are you saying they might? I mean, they've been CGIing background extras since at least Phantom Menace, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, there's maybe some application to like, and we're not talking about actual. That's the thing. We for a while we were making sure to not call it actual AI. It is important to understand this is not artificial intelligence in the way that we all have understood it all of our lives. The way it actually would be, if it could happen, if it does happen. This is regenerative. What's it called? Regenerative fucking. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Regenerative, not regenerative. It's just crap that's compiled together. The machine is the fucking algorithm is designed to pull together disparate elements based on fucking keywords and smash them together into something that resembles, original, ostensibly original thing. But it's made up of shit that already exists. It's not new ideas created, which would indicate actual intelligence, right? Like, it's just stealing.
It's stealing, and this is just like large. I think it's large language models is the.
Yeah, that's it.
The terminology I've heard. Again, Morgan knows more about this than we do. But none of this, like when you use the phrase artificial intelligence, what people think that means is this is like a sentient being.
Yeah.
That can independently think, and it has its own personality, its own identity. It's a being, not just a program. And that's not what this is at all. They just rebranded plagiarism technology, more or less, basically.
Yep.
And it's so energy intensive that all by itself, it would ruin our carbon neutrality goals.
Right. Data is the perfect example. I mean, obviously, fantasy is so advanced as to not be, likely anytime in the near or even far future. But still, he's a perfect example of a being that started out with, a set ability with his mind and what he's able to do, and on his own is able to build on that and grow and create new aspects of himself. This is just it's the same thing as look, all these fucking grifters, Elon Musk, people like electric cars, they like they want a self-driving car like in the movies and stuff. I'm going to tell them that's what the future is going to be in just a few years. And he's been saying that for over a decade and a half. And they still can't fucking get self-driving cars right because he refuses to understand the fucking technology that he defiantly, dumbfoundingly fucking insists on trying to use won't work in a way that makes it safe. He insisted that you don't have to do it with kind of like like sonar, essentially, is what everybody the actual smart people are telling me. You have to do it this way, and he's like, no, we're not doing it that way. And because he just won't do it that way, he keeps creating fucking death traps.
Yeah, because the goal, not just with Elon Musk, he's the most famous example, but all of the billionaires do this. The goal is profit maximization, not product efficiency, right? They see regulations, which safety regulations, as an obstacle to profit maximization. So they want to eliminate all regulations. And so Elon Musk does not want to follow safety regulations, which is why he thinks we can put a person on Mars and colonize Mars in like 20 years or whatever he thinks, because he's pretending that all of the safeguards that are in place right now to make sure that astronauts don't die after getting stranded in space for 3 months or something just don't need to be. He's assuming they're just not going to be there in the future. So
it defies reason. If it would be like probably a century or more task to fucking terraform Mars to any kind of degree that like a civilization, even a small one, could live there. Once we even figure, we could get there, which is farther off than he likes to pretend. So to think that is more viable than just, doing the things that have been identified over and over again is what we need to do here on this goddamn planet to hopefully avoid, some of the worst fucking disaster. We're not going to avoid some of it now. It's too late to avoid some of it, but we're already experiencing it. But like, maybe we can not completely lose the planet if we started actually doing some stuff now. No, let's go to Mars,
Yeah, we're already terraforming a planet in the wrong direction.
Don't tell me that. I saw fucking Total Recall, man. Don't tell me that shit.
It's not impossible. It just can't be done in a single human lifetime.
Right.
It's not an engineering project. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I was just saying. We're already
we just got to maintain it a little bit goddamn better. That's it.
Yeah. We're terraforming the Earth right now, just in the wrong direction. But his goal is not to continue human civilization. His goal is to continue his gene pool. He's a eugenicist. He thinks he's the master race, basically. Like they've taken the concept of the master race and just turned it into an individual family thing and not an ethnic group thing. So Elon Musk thinks he's the most superior being in existence.
I was going to give you comment of the day, but then I realized that not all the mutants that terraformed Mars were Araco mutants. It was actually Storm, Iceman, Jean Grey. Who else was there? There was fucking I forget, but it was like a handful, and then I don't think any of them except for Storm eventually became Queen Regent of Araco. Nonetheless, this is not an XFAP. Yeah, can we just grow fruits and veggies in the fucking city? Right. Something so simple. And no, we gotta have another, lane for the cars. Except for in Portland where they fucking hate cars. So like all of the streets are disappearing here. It's kind of crazy. I just went to Austin for, it is kind of, I went to Austin for a few days and they have built so many fucking highways, all of them toll roads, by the way. Fucking insanity. Since I've been gone for the last decade. I lived in Austin for several years. About a decade ago, I moved to Portland. And when I left, there was already a lot of construction underway. Austin was already starting to grow really fast. And now it is not even a good looking city. I remember when I first moved to Austin in 2005, it was beautiful. It didn't seem too big or too crowded or too rushed or anything like that. And now it is all of those things and it doesn't even look good. And there's just nothing but highways everywhere. Like toll highways. And then here in Portland, at least downtown, they're doing a lot to, if you're a bicyclist in Portland, Oregon, you basically are a god. You have rights beyond those of mortal men. But yeah. That's what I like about The Expanse. Show the effects of Mars and space colonization on the human. But yeah, that's more grounded, hard science fiction aspects of that show and those books, which I really do love the show anyway. Yeah. I haven't only read the first book, but that's the kind of stuff that we should be looking at, like that show's kind of hopeful in the sense that we're even going to make it that far to have the kind of problems they're having then. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it is realistic about space. Like it would completely be driven by capitalism. And like resources, developing resources. That's what the Belters. I don't know if you've seen it or read the books, Bob, but
I neither actually. I keep meaning to get around to it, and
dude,
I never.
I'm pretty sure you would love the show if you watched it, because
I'm sure I would too.
There's the Earth, obviously, which is just so overcrowded and not great. Then there's the Belters, which out in the asteroid belt. These are miners essentially that are. They're the working class, the labor class. They're sent out there to mine for stuff that's then sent back to Earth or sent to Mars, which is the warrior military society, built on their independence and their ability to wage war. But like the physical bodies of the character, especially the Belters, they're like longer, they're taller, they're slender because of the gravity effects and stuff like that over the course of generations. It's fucking really cool stuff. Misaligned spines and deformities, and they're all poor and they're fucking essentially living on floating chunks of rocks and shit and digging up ore for rich people. Has a very, especially once it gets to the last couple of seasons, it becomes clear where the creators sentiments lie, and they're socialists.
What?
Yeah. It's essentially about like it's like, here, look at the society you live in the future, maybe, so that you can look at it a little less, attached, and then just see what the end result is going to be if we make it this far. And then it's also the selling point. The biggest selling point is what space battles would actually be like, which really no other show has done. Because space is 3D. You can move in any direction. There wouldn't be two ships that go nose to nose and start firing at each other.
Yeah. Well, Babylon 5 kind of did a little bit of that too.
Okay.
But
enough.
Their special effects were way not as good as they are now.
Have you seen any of the fucking fights from Expanse?
I've seen some clips, yeah.
Okay. Because I'll fucking stop this stream right now and we'll just watch fucking Expanse clips the rest of the time. No. It's kind of what I like. Legion of Superheroes comic, optimistic enough to hope we make it to the 31st century. Right.
Yeah. Or Star Trek. Yeah.
Dude, like, I was so not, as a kid, I just took for granted that we were on the arc towards Star Trek. I even accepted that I probably wouldn't ever see that specific awesome of a society, but I was like, at least we're on our way, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So naive.
Yeah. Well, I will point out that we are in the ballpark of the Bell riots in Deep
That's
Space
true.
Nine.
Maybe,
So
maybe
we are on the arc and we just don't know it yet.
Oh, I gotta look this up. What are the Bell riots?
The Bell riots in canon were in 2024, I think.
We're a pivotal series of events on Earth that took place in September 2024. So we're overdue.
Yeah, but all those dates are like kind of like a window, not
like the Bible.
A specific, yeah, like with Khan Noonien Singh and his constantly retconning his backstory, right? But if you look at the overall prediction there, that by the early part of the 21st century, the United States would be a hyper-capitalist hellhole on the verge of revolution, they were pretty damn accurate. And even like the issues, if you watch the episode about the Bell riots, the issues that are animating politics in that episode are the exact same ones that we're dealing with right now. So maybe we are on the arc to Star Trek and we just, yeah.
Yeah, because this is the one where like isn't where like the Doctor and Cisco kind of walk through the homeless city.
Yeah.
And fucking Julian's like, I don't understand how this can happen. Like, how did they allow this to happen? Like, this doesn't make any sense. When it would cost less money and obviously be less harmful to just like take care of people. And Cisco's like, yeah, man, it's fucking pretty crazy. No. So what it was Bell riots started in San Francisco's Sanctuary District A. They were named after the protest leader, Gabriel Bell, one of the most violent civil disturbances in all of American history. The riots and subsequent crackdown resulted in the deaths of hundreds of Sanctuary District residents. And that takes place shown in Deep Space Nine episodes Past Tense 1 and 2. By the 2020s, the American government, reacting to its serious problems of homelessness and unemployment, created special sanctuary districts, essentially walled-off sections of the city grid in most major cities. Unfortunately, while established with the benevolent intent of providing free housing and food, as well as prospects for future employment, the sanctuaries quickly degenerated into inhumane internment camps for the poor and mentally ill. Even though people, this in Portland, there's a lot of homeless people, okay, in Austin as well. But like Portland has become known as, or they did for a while. They're definitely trying to change that now. They were known for being friendly to the homeless. And so that brought a lot of people from all over the country that were essentially, unable to secure homes or work or whatever, said, oh, well, at least I won't get harassed there. So they fucking came to Portland, a lot of them. And then, there's a lot of addiction, methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl, all this shit's going around. And then the cops started actually cracking down. The fucking mayor that we had here for several years is a piece of shit. They just started cracking down on these homeless encampments that you can kind of see everywhere. And I have enormous empathy for these people because I've been homeless for a very short time, but I was in Portland. It was like a 2-week period whenever I kind of crazy shit happened. I had to leave where I was living and I had to wait a couple of weeks to get paid to get a new place. But I was literally just broke on the street, sleeping where I could. And during that time, I was told to go to this place that, what was the name of it? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like essentially a community project over, one part of downtown where they had built basically this kind of wooden shacks, but like a big enough to hold like 25, 30, 35 little cots, right? So you could go there after a certain point at night and sleep under a roof. Even though it's a shitty wooden roof, you could sleep under a roof. And I'm talking 5 inches away from somebody else on either side. And you couldn't go in if they thought you were drunk or high. They wouldn't let you in or anything like that. Obviously, that's not a foolproof plan. But like, that's what I'm picturing with this kind of thing. It's like it was done with good intentions, but eventually the cops tore that shit down because it became a fucking hive for, drug activity and people getting assaulted and shit like that. And it's just like, man, this is too real.
Yeah. Now, try to imagine a presidential administration in the United States that would actually do all of those things right around the same time, that exact year in the timeline. And where are we in the real world? Right? We're there. Like the Trump administration is already doing shit like that. They're talking, like, one of the things you mentioned on that list was like rounding up mentally ill people and putting them in camps. Basically, we're already talking about creating a registry for autistic people, right? Who are not mentally ill, by the way, but they're already talking about doing crap like this. And there was news that came out.
I kind of had a little bit of an emergency pop up. I will be back shortly. I'm sorry, man. I'll be back.
Okay, I'll keep talking. I love to hit the sound of my own voice. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, we're on the verge of creating the conditions described in the Bell Riots episodes of Deep Space Nine, and so maybe we are on the arc to a Star Trek future, and we just don't realize it yet, because history is always particular to the lived experience of the people at that moment, and they can't see the big picture. So it's easy to be a doomer and think everything's going to shit, because that's legitimately how it looks. But moments like this in history often catalyze significant social changes, and I don't want to throw around the word revolution too loosely, but the word revolution just means things turning, right? And we're kind of there. The news came out either last week or the week before that at this point, 60% of Americans are not able to pay for their basic needs. Those are revolution numbers, right? If you're in that condition, and before the big beautiful bill gets passed and signed into law, if we're already at a point where 60% of people can't meet all of their basic needs, and they were about to enact laws that remove the social safety net, those are guillotine numbers. So stuff's going to pop off real soon if they keep going the way they're going. But that could be an opportunity to make things better a few years down the line, because revolution, the turning of things, is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for worse outcomes and an opportunity for better outcomes, and neither of those are inevitable. We have a choice which one it's going to be. Yeah, Sean, some people said they would not be able to pull a $400 emergency, but that's an old statistic. That's like 5 or 6 years old. The new data is that a majority of Americans are already choosing to skip food for the week to pay a medical bill, or vice versa. A majority of Americans are now unable, regardless of how many jobs they have or what their income is, they can no longer afford housing, healthcare, food, and education, even on a combined family income anymore. So, yeah. I don't know where else to go, but that's where we are. And it could be an opportunity for us to make things better through community organizing, mutual aid networks, that sort of thing. Yeah, Lucifer writing, 60% of Americans have poor to low quality of life, but quality of life is defined as the ability to cover all of your basic expenses like food, healthcare, shelter, and education. Like the way that we calculate a living wage is we look at how much the total cost of the necessities of life are, and then we say that cost should never be more than 1/3 of your monthly income. So the idea of a living wage is you should be able to afford food, shelter, education, transportation, and healthcare on no more than 1/3 of your monthly income. And for a majority of Americans, that is 50% to 80% of their monthly income. So that's what they mean by quality of life is declining. I'll look at some of the chats. I think we skipped a super chat earlier. Yeah, Sean, I'm sorry, Sean, I don't have the ability to highlight your super chat, but I don't think we addressed it. For $10, about half an hour ago, Sean said, modern readers may not realize the quality of the paper, coloring, etc. of DC and Marvel were forced to improve because of indie studios of the 90s doing what they want. And yeah, I think the point you're getting at there is that indie studios treated their creators better and paid them better and invested in more higher quality creative products like better paper and so forth that improved the artistic experience of the reader, and that forced DC and Marvel to change their game as well. I'm going to scroll back through some chat and stuff. Let's see. Okay, RXNV asked, I mean, does the administration need to do anything to treat mentally unwell people when the local states and municipalities already do a lot of it? Prepare for the big, beautiful bill. All of that is going away. And I mean almost all of it. Like, we are about, the bill has not passed both houses of Congress, has not been signed into law by the president. But if it gets to the president's desk, we really are on the verge of almost entirely dismantling the entire social safety net of this country. The billionaires want to privatize Social Security. They want to privatize Medicare. They want to privatize everything that the government does, because capitalism in America is no longer capable of producing actual products. So in order to maximize profit, they have to start privatizing and commodifying services like Social Security. What they want to do with Social Security is turn it into essentially a hedge fund that you're putting money into your whole working life, and that hedge fund is managed by some other person who is not you, and you're not guaranteed to get the money because they can take that money and invest it in the stock market on your behalf, quote unquote. But you could stand to lose your entire Social Security savings because of the fuck up of some other person. And that person, your Social Security fund manager, would take a fee every month out of your Social Security earnings to pay themselves, and they would take a proportion of any profit you earned on the stock market with that. And if they lost everything in a bad bet on the stock market, you lose all the money and they don't pay anything. That's what they want to do to Social Security. And they want to eliminate Medicare entirely as well. And a lot of the provisions in the big, beautiful bill are also taking away the ability of states to do this on their own, because there's a clause in the Constitution called the Supremacy Clause, which says that no state government laws can contradict the federal laws. So there's a lot of areas where the federal government doesn't have laws for something, and the states have come up with their own solution. But if the federal government passes a law to address that problem that's different from what the states did, then the states have to defer to the federal law. And so part of what the big, beautiful bill is doing is not only trying to dismantle the federal social safety net, but also say the states cannot create their own social safety net either. So the Bell riots could be right around the corner. Sean says, the problem with mental health is the government expect police to handle that. Even cops say that's not their job. Yeah. Like, for so much, so like, let's take the case of George Floyd, for instance. What was needed in that situation was a social worker who maybe has some training in Brazilian jiu-jitsu or something, so they can restrain a violent person without hurting them, right? but it's also a person who is trained in
talking
to people who have
everybody.
mental health problems.
Had a family situation come up, and I need to end the stream, I think.
Alrighty.
But Bob, thank you for holding it down. I mean, I would just let you go, man, but like you don't have any of the controls over the stream, so
yeah, that's fair.
But if you wanted to like start a stream on your channel, we can send people over there if you want. It's up to you.
I'm not really set up for that right now, so we'll just call it here. Be sure to like and subscribe to everybody down below, etc., etc.
Yep, and let me grab that link one more time for Peter David's fund. If you guys didn't catch it earlier and you have some, even a couple of bucks to contribute, it's a good cause. But thank you all for fapping with us. Shit, I can't. Oh, here it is. And salute Peter David, man. One of the most legendary of all legends. Yeah. So no, everybody's okay. Everybody's safe. It's just kind of like a crazy, drama thing with some neighbors, and it's just like it's really stupid. Fucking, people be crazy. Yeah.
All right.
Be sure to subscribe to Bob of the Old Ways. He is linked in the description. And I think we'll probably see, or I don't know if I'll be on the Shillcast this week, maybe not, but yeah, watch for it anyway. And yeah, have a lovely week. Enjoy your Memorial Day off, maybe.
Sounds like we got a real problem out here. Any of you incel, QAnon, 4chan, Snyder Cut motherfuckers want to get on a line now? Anybody? I think so.